In 1939, during the midst of the Second World War, a project was signed off that would change the course of history. This project had the sole goal to produce as quickly as possible a bomb that had power previously unimaginable. A bomb that could destroy cities in seconds and bring a country to its knees. This endeavor that would change history was known only by one name: the Manhattan Project. The Manhattan Project began shortly after Albert Einstein wrote a letter to President Franklin Roosevelt, detailing the discovery of the immense power of the atom, and how it was vital that the Allies harnessed this power. The Manhattan Project began modestly in 1939, but grew to employ more than 600,000 people total by the war's end, and costed the US nearly $2 billion at the time, an amount comparable to $26 billion today. American scientists, many of them refugees from fascist regimes in Europe, took steps in 1939 to organize a project to exploit the newly recognized fission process for military purposes. After the US entry into World War II, the War Department was given joint responsibility for the project. As well, the US Army Corps of Engineers was employed to help in the building of the massive facilities needed to produce the uranium and plutonium for the bombs. In 1942, General Leslie R. Groves was placed in charge of all activities relating to the project, and famously codenamed it the Manhattan Project. In December 1942, key scientist Enrico Fermi succeeded in producing and controlling a fission chain reaction in his reactor at Chicago. Production of plutonium and uranium was ramped up shortly after to prepare for the upcoming tests. Of the hundreds of thousands working on the Manhattan Project, only a small handful had any idea what the project was about. This was, of course, intentional. The US government feared greatly that word would get out of how they were developing the bomb, and took many steps to ensure secrecy. Locations for the project were kept to unpopulated areas. Military police guarded every site, factory, and lab, and all messages of the hundreds of thousands of workers were closely monitored and censored. In May of 1945, enough plutonium had been produced to create a nuclear bomb. The first atomic bomb was exploded at 5:30 a.m. on July 16, 1945, at a site on the Alamogordo Air Base. The bomb was detonated on top of a steel tower surrounded by scientific equipment, with remote monitoring taking place in bunkers occupied by scientists and a few dignitaries 10,000 yards away. The explosion came as an intense light flash, a sudden wave of heat, and a tremendous roar as the shockwave passed and echoed in the valley. A ball of fire rose rapidly, followed by a mushroom cloud extending to 40,000 feet. The bomb generated an explosive power equivalent to 20,000 tons of TNT. The massive steel tower was completely vaporized, and the surrounding desert surface fused to glass in a radius of 2,000 feet. The scientists were shocked. None of them had predicted the size and power of the explosion, and urged the US military to not use the bomb on the populated cities of Japan. Despite their objections, 1 month later, an American B-29 bomber dropped the world's first atomic bomb over the Japanese city of Hiroshima. The explosion wiped out 90% of the city and immediately killed 80,000 people. 3 days later, a second B-29 bomber dropped another atomic bomb on Nagasaki, killing an estimated 40,000 people. Japan's Emperor Hirohito announced his country's unconditional surrender in World War II in a radio address on August 15th, citing the devastating power of a new and most cruel bomb. The war had been won, and the Manhattan Project was a complete success.